During my first week before leaving, I was very nervous. You know, they tell you there's going to be 30 plus people from countries all over the world, and you think, what are these 20 kids are going to have in common? So I went into that building, I was very nervous, and everybody, I think, you know, because we didn't know each other, we threw everything out the window, and we were very excited to meet each other and see what we thought about different things. I remember in my room speaking about politics and, you know, different activists or writers that we liked. I don't think it's fair for some girls to have plenty of pretty things and other girls nothing at all, added little Amy with an injured sniff. Our first introduction to Amy March on Louisa May Alcott to the Women says a lot about her character. She is stiff, has a lot of nerve, and in simple words can be pretty annoying. Yet despite her flaws, I have always found her to be an interesting character. Little Women tells a story of four sisters navigating life, love, and loss in 19th century America, and Little Women is a big topic in my house as we are constantly debating which character we each are, my dad included. Yet the general public does not seem to agree with my care for Amy, as there have been numerous articles and conversations talking about what a bad character the youngest March sister is. But why is this important? A study made by the University of Chicago revealed that when we first meet people, we tend to need more proof to believe someone's moral character is worse than a better.
I think for me and for the country, it's because it opens opportunities to access information. Most of the information we can find on any topic is in English. So when you speak English and you can read English, I experienced it in my university. Like everything we read mostly is in English. Anglo-Saxon writers are like the most prominent writers, especially in the areas you study in university. So it opens doors to knowledge. What do you think would have happened if Rosa Parks, mother of the civil rights movement, had gotten into that famous bus, looked at the white seat, gotten angry, but instead of taking action, had said, "Nah, I'll do it another day"? What do you think would have happened if Winston Churchill had taken an "I'll deal with it later" attitude towards resisting Hitler? Different story, right? But their job is not done. Here is where we, the new generations, make our entrance. Our job is to turn into catalyzers. We cannot cover our ears and pretend to uncover them in the future. Now, the voices are stronger than ever. We just have to listen. I invite each and every one of you to embrace your power. Use your ideas to create a world in which abuse, hunger, murder become unknown words. A world where, thanks to empowering education, everyone has the same opportunities. A world where conflicts are resolved with words instead of weapons. But we have to do it now. If we keep waiting, we may not be here for the future we hope to build. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do some good before we say goodbye. The future is now.
Ludwig von Wittgenstein, the great linguist, once said, "The limits of my language are the limits of my universe." Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a cage. We live in a world where we can only express our thoughts and intentions using predetermined words. You see, George Orwell explored this concept in his novel, 1984, where a totalitarian government forces its society to adopt the language called Newspeak, a radically revised version of the English language, from which many meanings available to us today have been removed. The purpose of Newspeak was to provide a means of expression accepted by the government and making all other modes of thought impossible. The word free still existed in Newspeak, but only in the sense of this field is free from weeds, or this dog is free from lice. It could not be used in the sense of intellectually free or politically free, because intellectual freedom and political freedom no longer exist even as concepts, and were therefore, of necessity, nameless. Of course, this is only fiction, but the concept of language limiting our thought is a subject I find to be of interest.
After that, I'm currently studying at I studied at the University of Miami, and I got a scholarship because I got really good grades in the TOEFL exam, in which I excelled because of all this process with English. And now I'm recording this video from the offices of Hogan Lovells, which is the office that I'm working for here in Miami, which is one of the 10 biggest firms in the United States. It has revenues for $3 billion, and if it wasn't for English, I wouldn't have had this opportunity. English has taken me a long way. I'm really happy that the young Pablo, that 15-year-old kid, decided to push and persevere in these initiatives like the ESU, because that was what made me convince myself that English was in fact a door opener, that it provided you with opportunities, and that set things in motion. And I'm sure that the ESU competition was a defining moment, and if that hadn't happened, maybe the motivation and the realization that English can take you places wouldn't have happened. And I'm really grateful to the organization, and that's why I'm happy to collaborate with these questions and with students and whoever's getting involved in the ESU, because for me it was a very, very relevant moment in my life, and it has really shaped how things are going now. So thank you for listening to me. I'm very happy to participate and collaborate, and I hope this has been useful.
Theme of the speeches that year, which was differences and diversity. And so I built Untitled based on not judging a book by its cover. And like you introduced me, for example, we have Cusack-Versakovsky here. What I made very clear in my speech as well is that, Cusack-Versakovsky can lead to many assumptions. My full name is Cusack-Versakovsky Negrete. And at the time, our speech started evolving into a lot more than, just a speech for a competition. It ended up being like this whole big self-reflection tied to a very, very specific moment in my life. Another really crazy thing that happened during the competition, it was at Universidad de los Andes, were the questions that came right after the speeches. Many of the questions are very complex and convoluted, but I remember I got asked one by Amaro Gomez Pablos, who was a reporter and newscaster at the time, and all he asked is why I had decided to wear a black suit that day. And it was just the craziest question that could have ever come from anyone in such an instance. So I sort of froze for a second, tried to stall, basically trying to add a bit of more humor. Well, it was the best suit I had in my closet, to be honest. But then I linked it back to everything. It's like he had to throw me this nugget into how it tied to this whole differences and diversity aspect. And not just London, I would say the whole England experience was very magical. You're surrounded by people your age, but from all over the world, from, I think it was like 60 different nationalities, right? And it also took me away from all the regular life concerns, and you're just on this magical adventure, big break for 10 days that seem a lot longer, and it's an experience that stays with you for way longer than that, and that shapes your character as well.
I mean, speaking with my friends, I remember valuable phrases that some of my friends said. I remember that Soham Chakraborty from Canada, when I remember that I didn't get to the final, but he said that there's always an X factor in life, an X factor that you can't control, but what you can control is what you give. And that's why you almost always must try to give your 100%, because or else you're always going to have that doubt. So try to tame that X factor in your life. And I think that I have been able to, I have tried to implement that into my day-to-day life. And the networking, I mean, This winter vacations, I'm going to Europe to visit some of my best friends that I made in the trip. I want to study cinema. I love movies and art, etc. And a lot of that is in English. So I think that you can experience much more art, culture, cinema, etc. Make friendships with unlikely people by learning English. And that's why I think that the ESU and these instances are very important. Throughout history, there have been many powerful figures who have shaped the world, changing its course, like Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, and Genghis Khan. Yet there are also modern leaders who have fought for peace and justice, like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King. Despite all of their efforts, today we should all be dead. But this isn't so, because one man, one pawn saved us from our kings when they had abandoned us. See, it was in 1983, during the height of the Cold War, as Stanislav Petrov stared at his screen in disbelief. "Dear God, is it true, Lieutenant?" asked General Yuri Volochinsev, for the radar showed American missiles heading towards the Soviet Union. The Russian pawn knew that if he confirmed the attack, he would seal the fate of humanity. But he would have enough time to save his family in a nuclear shelter. But if he lied, betting everything on the slim chance that the radar was wrong, he could maybe, just maybe, save humanity.